When they lose their sense of awe, people turn to religion. When they no longer trust themselves, they begin to depend upon authority. Okay. Um, Today is day 25 of Moon 1. Chinese New Year was 24 days ago. So we are still using this as a prompt, obviously, the Lunar Tao by Denming Dao, although that was an excerpt from the Tao Te Ching itself, Lao Tzu. So the title for today from this book, which is what we're using as a prompt, is Reason and Spirit. So looking at some, not really left brain and right brain, but left brain and spirit. So to the Chinese, the spirit is here. It's at your center. It's your center of your toroidal field. The toroidal field is how we actually interact energetically with everything around us. Good time for the voice to break. So my name's Ollie. This is Red Sun Horizons. I'm an Eastern Physiotherapies practitioner from the south of England in Southsea. Reason and spirit. We'll go straight into. This is, so Lao Tzu is the most common one, obviously the Tao Te Ching. But there is another called Zhuangzi. After Lao Tzu, Zhuangzi is considered one of Taoism's greatest writers. He lived from 369 to 286. So that would be BC. Okay, so this little story, which is quite nice. It's Zhuangzi and Master Hui strolled across a bridge that spanned the Hao River. The fish are out and swimming, observed Zhuangzi. This is the joy of fish. You are not a fish, chided Master Hui. How do you know the joy of fish? You are not me, Zhuangzi answered. So how would you know that I don't know the joy of fish? I'm not you, said Master Hui, so I don't know that what you do. But you're not a fish, so it's irrefutable that you do not know the joy of fish. Let's go back to the root of the question, said Zhuangzi. When you first asked, how do you know the joy of fish, you asked because you already knew that I knew. I knew it by strolling over the Hao. So, experience rather than analysing, analytical. How would anyone know what someone else knows? How would anyone experience what someone else experiences? It's not a progression of. It's not a linear progression of information. It's something you just know there and then. Claircognizance would be a thing. Also empathy, that kind of thing. So the far end of one spectrum is that empathic thing. Obviously, the other end is psychopathic. Most people exist, obviously, in the middle, somewhere that way or somewhere that way, etc. But yes, so the difference between logic and knowing. Right. Okay. So kind of it always carries on from the previous day. So yesterday's was question, test, use every sense you have, and yet still believe that the dawn will come, for the spirit is wrapped in reason. So coming on from that, the spirit is wrapped in reason, and reason is wrapped in spirit, even if the faithful still have doubt. Yeah. So the rational side of things, we should always have both. There's the spiritual side and the rational side. So even in stuff like, especially with more the esoteric sort of stuff, when people start learning things like Reiki or sort of a hands-on, hands-off energetic work, there is always what some people call the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt sort of thing. That is the the left brain analytical side of things, trying to analyze and justify and trying to tie things in to so like my own obviously experience with Reiki has been very much that as well, but with TCM, with the Chinese medicine side of things, it's always looking at the Chinese way of looking at the body and then trying to rationalize it to the Western side of the body, when actually it's kind of a waste of time, because realistically nowadays the Western side of the Western is now just catching up. You know, the way the Chinese look at the body and the way we talk, the way the Western translation of the way they look at the body sounds, it is not, you know, but it sounds completely out there and completely. But ultimately, this is still based on thousands and thousands of years of trial and error observation. It's about as scientific as it comes. You know, when you're comparing that to like a couple of 100 years of Western medicine. You know, so yes, difference between logic and reason. So ultimately, we need both. I'm going to read one more excerpt from this. So, reason and spirit really cover two different territories in our lives. When we are in the realm of reason, when we are in the realm where reason holds sway, it would be absurd to turn to mystical means. Likewise, once we enter into the realm of mysticism, reason is of limited use. Far better to be rigorously logical and rational when the situation calls for it, and to be mystical whenever that is called for. The versatility of such a personality will always be advantageous. Absolutely. And I work some days in the clinic, and I work some days from here with the more the hands-on tween our stuff, obviously, and the Thai stuff, but obviously working with crystals and the more. Acupuncture is kind of a bit of both, in that sense that you need to have a full Western knowledge of anatomy and physiology. You need to know where all the trying to think of the word is, the arteries are. It's the main thing. You know, but then there's also the mysticism, and there's different ways of looking at acupuncture, from looking at something that is a little bit more towards the end of what we now know as Western dry needling, which is literally just, obviously, if you know where the arteries are, avoid those, and you just place a needle near to where someone feels the pain, trigger points effectively. But when you're going into the deeper side of things and you're using all the myofascial tones and all, sorry, my phone's saying storage low, it's really distracting. So when you start using all the acupressure points and acupuncture points in the traditional sense of traditional Chinese medicine, and you can treat most things at different speeds, then that would be very much considered esoteric, although Western science is now catching up. And we are now looking at a bit wider. Why can you treat someone's head with someone's hand, or head with feet, etc.? There's an energetic explanation behind that, which is a nice easy one, because if everything originated from the navel, that was where the embryo was. Everything has grown outwards from that, even though there is a matrix or a DNA matrix that says this is the head, these are arms, these are legs, etc. Energetically, there is a pattern that says this far away from the navel is the same as this far away from the navel. But from a Western side of things, you can look at the dermatomes, you can look at the myofascial lines that all interconnect everything, and the myofascia connects everything. So we are placing needles at points of influence and creating a on-body grid in the most key points of influence to stimulate the body to self-heal. It is always the body that heals, it's never anything else. As an acutherapist or any other kind of therapist, we are just encouraging the body or giving the body guidance. You could think of the healing as being the car, but we are the sat-nav in some ways. So, right then, I'm going to read one last bit, because apparently my storage is low and I need to tap to manage, but we're not doing that, so hope for the best. Not knowing is true knowledge. Presuming to know is a disease. First realizing that you are sick, then you can move towards health. The master is her own physician. She has healed herself of all knowing, thus she is truly whole. And I will read that one I read at the beginning, because there's an extension of it. When they lose their sense of awe, people turn to religion. When they no longer trust themselves, they begin to depend upon authority. Therefore the master steps back so that people won't be confused. He teaches without teaching, so that people will have nothing to learn. Yeah, experiencing rather than learning, but we need both, obviously, especially within the school systems and everything else. It's that little thing you have to go through, which is, you know, there is pros and cons to everything. But yes, that first line is definitely one of my favourite. When people no longer trust themselves, they begin to depend upon authority. And we have been taught not to trust ourselves or to trust each other, because that is always shown in the news, which is bad news, and so did so-and-so, and so-and-so did so-and-so, and that's it. And everything is bad news, even when you watch soaps. You know, there's nothing but... I think nowadays you don't even have to be an actor. It's just, can you have an argument? Do you know how to shout? You're hired. So everything is bad news. I don't watch mainstream media. I don't watch mainstream TV anymore for that reason. And you know, it's all designed to mistrust ourselves and to mistrust human, and to still to pin one ethnicity against another ethnicity, and one religion against another religion, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, the best thing anyone can do in their life is to throw their TV out the fucking window. But anyway, that is everything for today, and I will see you tomorrow.